Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios in Hythe, Kent, southeast England. In Norman, Anglo-Saxon, the word Hythe means haven, and we're trying to turn this place into a haven, reading the Caitanya-caritämrta every day, and our able-bodied brahmachari assistant Abhaya is going out every day, meeting people and giving out books, and the haven. It's becoming a haven. All right. On this glorious day in which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur returned to the spiritual world, to his eternal abode, Radha and Krishna, Radharani's assistants, Kamala, Manjari. We're continuing on with the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the Vedanta Sutra to the Mayavadi sannyasis in Benares, and setting up the foundation so that we understand the foundational principles on which the Lord's pastimes stand, so that we can understand them more deeply and go and taste the truth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, which are, by the way, very difficult to understand, because he's Krishna acting as a devotee of himself. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as we're reading every day, has glorified the Caitanya-caritämrta in a unique way, I think. He said, in due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Vedanta Sutra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. So Lord Chaitanya is giving the sauce to the Mayavadis, explaining to them what the Vedanta Sutra actually means. They've been brainwashed by Shankaracharya's commentary, Shariraka Bhashya, on the Bhagavad Gita, into thinking that Krishna is Maya. Beginning with text 129, Lord Chaitanya is speaking. It is the purpose of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to present Pranava, Omkara, as the reservoir of all Vedic knowledge. The words Tat Tvam Asi are only a partial explanation of the Vedic knowledge. Purport. Tat Tvam Asi means you are the same spiritual identity. Pranava, Omkara, is the Mahavakya, Maha Mantra in the Vedas. Shankaracharya's followers cover this to stress without authority the mantra Tattvam Asi. Purport. The Mayavadi philosophers stress the statements Tattvam Asi, Soham, etc., but they do not stress the real Mahamantra, Pranava, Omkara. Therefore, because they misrepresent Vedic knowledge, they are the greatest offenders to the lotus feet of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says clearly, Mayavadi Krishna Aparadi. Mayavadi philosophers are the greatest offenders to Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna declares, Tan ahang dvishatak kruran sangsareshu naradaman chipam ajasram ashubhan asureshveva jonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among mankind, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Bhagavad Gita 16:19. Life in demoniac species awaits the Mayavadi philosophers after death because they are envious of Krishna. When Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 9:34, Manmana bhavamad bhakto madjaji imam namaskuru. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. One demoniac scholar says that it is not Krishna to whom one must surrender. This scholar is already suffering in this life, and he will have to suffer again in the next, if in this life he does not complete his prescribed suffering. One should be very careful not to be envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the next verse, therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu clearly states the purport of the Vedas. 131. In all the Vedic sutras and literatures, it is Lord Krishna who is to be understood. But the followers of Shankaracharya have covered the real meaning of the Vedas with indirect explanations. Purport. It is said, Vede Ramayane Chaiva Purane Bharate Tata Adavante Chamadye Cha Hari Sarvatra Giyate. In the Vedic literature, including the Ramayana, Puranas, and the Mahabharata, from the very beginning, Adao, to the end, Ante Cha, as well as within the middle, Madhve Cha, only Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is explained. Text 132. The self-evident Vedic literatures are the highest evidence of all. But if these literatures are interpreted, their self-evident nature is lost. Purport. We quote Vedic evidence to support our statements, but if we interpret it according to our own judgment, the authority of the Vedic literature is rendered imperfect or useless. In other words, by interpreting the Vedic version, one minimizes the value of Vedic evidence. When one quotes from Vedic literature, it is understood that the quotations are authoritative. How can one bring the authority under his control? How can one bring the authority under his control? That is a case of principis obsta. That means to block the principle, obstruct the principle. So when we interpret the Vedic scriptures in our own way, especially by changing the word meanings to mean something other than they actually mean in the dictionary, then we obstruct the meaning and the principles. Text 133. To prove their philosophy, the members of the Mayavad school have given up the real, easily understood meaning of the Vedic literature and introduced indirect meanings based on their imaginative powers. Purport. Unfortunately, the Shankarite interpretation has covered almost the entire world. Therefore, there is a great need to present the original, easily understood, natural import of the Vedic literature. We have therefore begun by presenting Bhagavad Gita as it is, and we propose to present all the Vedic literature in terms of the direct meanings of its words. Text 134. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus showed for each and every sutra the defects in Sankaracharya's explanations, all the assembled Mayavadi sannyasis were struck with wonder. Text 135. All the Mayavadi sannyasis said, "Your Holiness, kindly know from us that we actually have no quarrel with your refutation of these meanings, for you have given a clear understanding of the sutras." Text 136. We know that all this word jugglery springs from the imagination of Shankaracharya, and yet because we belong to his sect, we accept it, although it does not satisfy us. He's turned them into honest people, Lord Chaitanya, the influence of Lord Chaitanya. Those who preach Lord Chaitanya's glories and his philosophy without changing it can do that same thing. Maybe not to the same extent as Lord Chaitanya, because he's Krishna himself. But anyone who agrees to repeat the Bhagavad Gita as it is will have the effect on an honest person. Now let us see, the Mayavadi sannyasis continued, how well you can describe the sutras in terms of their direct meaning. Hearing this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began his direct explanation of the Vedanta Sutra. So he was just giving the background. We've been hearing for quite some days just the background. And now Lord Chaitanya is going to directly explain the Vedanta Sutra. Text 138. Brahman, who is greater than the greatest, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is full in 6 opulences, and therefore he is the reservoir of ultimate truth and absolute knowledge. Purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that the absolute truth is understood in 3 phases of realization: the impersonal Brahman, the localized Paramatma, and ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma are expansions of the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is complete in 6 opulences, namely wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Since he possesses his 6 opulences, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate truth in absolute knowledge. Text 139. In his original form, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is full with transcendental opulences, which are free from the contamination of the material world. It is to be understood that in all Vedic literature, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal. Text 140. When we speak of the Supreme as impersonal, we deny his spiritual potencies. Logically, if you accept half of the truth, you cannot understand the whole. Purport. In the Upanishads it is said, Om Purnamadak Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. This verse, which is mentioned in the Ishopanishad, Brihan Aranyaka Upanishad, and many other Upanishads, indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in 6 opulences. His position is unique, for he possesses all riches, strength, influence, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Brahman means the greatest, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is greater than the greatest. Just as the sun globe is greater than the sunshine, which is all-pervading in the universe. Although the sunshine that spreads all over the universes appears very great to the less knowledgeable, greater than the sunshine is the sun itself, and greater than the sun is the sun God. Similarly, impersonal Brahman is not the greatest, although it appears to be so. Impersonal Brahman is only the bodily effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the transcendental form of the Lord is greater than both the impersonal Brahman and the localized Paramatma. Therefore, whenever the word Brahman is used in the Vedic literature, it is understood to refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is also addressed as Parabrahman. Mayavadis and others sometimes misunderstand Brahman, because every living entity is also Brahman. Therefore, Krishna is referred to as Parabrahman, the Supreme Brahman. In the Vedic literature, whenever the words Brahman or Parabrahman are used, they are to be understood to mean to refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This is their real meaning. Since the entire Vedic literature deals with the subject of Brahman, Krishna is therefore the ultimate goal of Vedic understanding. The impersonal Brahmajyoti rests on the personal form of the Lord. Therefore, although the impersonal effulgence, the Brahmajyoti, is the first realization, one must enter into it, as mentioned in the Ishopanishad, to find the Supreme Person, and then one's knowledge is perfect. The Bhagavad Gita 7.19 also confirms this. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavam mam prapadyate. One's search for the absolute truth by dint of speculative knowledge is complete when one comes to the point of understanding Krishna and surrenders unto him. That is the real point of perfectional knowledge. Partial realization of the absolute truth as impersonal Brahman denies the complete opulences of the Lord. This is a hazardous understanding of the absolute truth. Unless one accepts all the features of the absolute truth, namely impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's knowledge is imperfect. Shripad Ramanujacharya, in his Vedartha Sangraha, says, Jnanina dharmena sarupam apinirupitam natu jnana matram brahmitikatam idam avagamyate. He thus indicates that the real identity of the Absolute Truth must be understood in terms of both his knowledge and his characteristics. Simply to understand the Absolute Truth, to be full of knowledge, is not sufficient. In the Vedic literature, Mundaka Upanishad 1.1.9, we find the statement, Yak Sarvagya Sarvabit, which means that the Absolute Truth knows everything perfectly. But we also learn from the Vedic description, Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate, that not only does he know everything, but he also acts accordingly by utilizing his different energies. Thus, to understand that Brahman, the Supreme, is conscious is not sufficient. One must know how he consciously acts through his different energies. Mayavad philosophy simply informs us of the consciousness of the Absolute Truth, but does not give us information of how he acts with that consciousness. That is the defect of their philosophy. Text 141. It is only by devotional service, beginning with hearing, that one can approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the only means to approach Him. Purport. Mayavadi philosophers are satisfied simply to understand Brahman to be the sum total of knowledge. But Vaishnava philosophers not only know in detail about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but also know how to approach Him directly. The method for this is described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as 9 kinds of devotional service, beginning with hearing. Shavanam Kirtanam Vishno, Smaranam Padasevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Bhagavatam 7.5.23. The 9 kinds of devotional service are hearing about Krishna, chanting about Him, remembering Him, offering service to His lotus feet, offering Him worship in the temple, offering prayers to Him, working as His servant, making friendship with Him, and unreservedly surrendering unto Him. One can directly approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by executing these 9 kinds of devotional service, of which hearing about the Lord is the most important, Shavanadi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has very favorably stressed the importance of this process of hearing. According to his method, if people are simply given a chance to hear about Krishna, certainly they will gradually develop their dormant awareness or love of Godhead. Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte Kariye Uday. C.C. Madhya 22:107. Love of God is dormant in everyone, and if one is given a chance to hear about the Lord, certainly that love develops. Our Krishna consciousness movement acts on this principle. We simply give people the chance to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and give them prasadam to eat. And the actual result is that all over the world, people are responding to this process and becoming pure devotees of Lord Krishna. We have opened hundreds of centers all over the world just to give people in general a chance to hear about Krishna and accept Krishna's prasadam. These 2 processes can be accepted by anyone, even a child. It doesn't matter whether one is poor or rich, learned or foolish, black or white, old or still a child. Anyone who simply hears about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and takes prasadam is certainly elevated to the transcendental position of devotional service. And this may sound simple, but this is actually the solution to all the problems that are rampaging the world right now. The suspicion and disproportionate or inequality that's going on all over the world between different classes of people, different races, different genders, different nationalities, different races. It all can be cleared, and everyone can actually learn to live together in harmony, in love and understanding, if they have this simple process in common, to hear the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Father of every living being. Aham bija pradapita. Text 142. By practicing this regulated devotional service under the direction of the spiritual master, certainly one awakens his dormant love of Godhead. This process is called abhideya. Purport. By the practice of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting, the impure heart of a conditioned soul is purified, and thus he can understand his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That eternal relationship is described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jivera Sarupa Hoya Krishnera Nityadas. The living entity is an eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one is convinced about this relationship, which is called sambandha, he then acts accordingly. That is called abhideya. The next step is prayojana, siddhi, or fulfillment of the ultimate goal of one's life. If one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and act accordingly, automatically his mission in life is fulfilled. The Mayavadi philosophers miss even the first stage in self-realization because they have no conception of God's being personal. He is the master of all, and he is the only person who can accept the service of all living entities. But since this knowledge is lacking in Mayavad philosophy, Mayavadis do not have knowledge even of their relationship with God. They wrongly think that everyone is God, or that everyone is equal to God. Therefore, since the real position of the living entity is not clear to them, how can they advance further? Although they are very much puffed up at being liberated, Mayavadi philosophers very shortly fall down again to material activities due to their neglecting the lotus feet of the Lord. That is called patantyadaha. Yenye ravindaksha vimuktimaninas twadastabhavad abhishuddha buddhayaha aruya krichtrena padam tata patantyado na drishad yusbad angrayaha. Bhagavatam 10:2-32. Here it is said that persons who think themselves liberated but do not execute devotional service, not knowing their relationship with the Lord, are certainly misled. One must know his relationship with the Lord and act accordingly. Then the fulfillment of his life's mission will be possible. Krishnera 143. If one develops his love of Godhead and becomes attached to the lotus feet of Krishna, gradually he loses his attachment to everything else. Purport. This is a test of advancement in devotional service. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:2-42, Bhakti parishanubhavo niraktir anyatra cha. In Bhakti, a devotee's only attachment is Krishna. He no longer wants to maintain his attachments to many other things. Although Mayavadi philosophers are supposed to be very much advanced on the path of liberation, we see that after some time they descend to politics and philanthropic activities. Many big sannyasis who were supposedly liberated and very advanced have come down again to materialistic activities, although they left this world as mithya, false. When a devotee develops in devotional service, however, he no longer has attachments to such philanthropic activities. He is simply inspired to serve the Lord, and he engages his entire life in such service. This is the difference between Vaishnava and Mayavadi philosophers. Devotional service, therefore, is practical, whereas Mayavad philosophy is merely mental speculation. Text 144. Love of Godhead is so exalted that it is considered to be the fifth goal of human life. By awakening one's love of Godhead, one can attain the platform of conjugal love, tasting it even during the present span of life. Purport. The Mayavadi philosophers consider the highest goal of perfection to be liberation, mukti, which is the fourth perfectional platform. Generally, people are aware of four principal goals of life: religiosity, dharma; economic development, artha; sense gratification, kama; and ultimately liberation, moksha. But devotional service is situated on the platform above liberation. In other words, when one is actually liberated, mukta, he can understand the meaning of love of Godhead, Krishna Prema. While teaching Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stated, Koti Mukta Madhye Durlabha Eka Krishna Bhakta. Out of millions of liberated persons, one may become a devotee of Lord Krishna. The most elevated Mayavadi philosopher can rise to the platform of liberation, but Krishna Bhakti, devotional service to Krishna, is transcendental to such liberation. Srila Vyasadeva explains this fact in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2. Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapa trayon mulanam. Completely rejecting all religions which are materially motivated, the Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. Srimad Bhagavatam, the explanation of the Vedanta Sutra, is meant for Paramo Nirmatsaranam, those who are completely aloof from jealousy. Mayavadi philosophers are jealous of the existence of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Vedanta Sutra is not actually meant for them. They unnecessarily poke their noses into the Vedanta Sutra, but they have no ability to understand it, because, as the author of the Vedanta Sutra writes in his commentary, Srimad Bhagavatam, it is meant for those who are pure in heart, paramo nirmatsaranam. If one is envious of Krishna, how can he understand the Vedanta Sutra or Srimad Bhagavatam? The Mayavadi's primary occupation is to offend the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. For example, although Krishna demands our surrender in the Bhagavad Gita, the greatest scholar and so-called philosopher in modern India has protested that it is not to Krishna that we have to surrender. Therefore, he is envious. Since Mayavadis of all different descriptions are envious of Krishna, they have no scope for understanding the meaning of the Vedanta Sutra. Even if they were on the liberated platform, as they falsely claim, love of Krishna is beyond the state of liberation, a fact stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and repeated here by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Text 145. The Supreme Lord, who is greater than the greatest, becomes submissive to even a very insignificant devotee because of his devotional service. It is the beautiful and exalted nature of devotional service that the infinite Lord becomes submissive to the infinitesimal living entity because of it. That is, because of devotional service. In reciprocal devotional activities with the Lord, the devotee actually enjoys the transcendental mellow of devotional service. Purport. Becoming one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not very important for a devotee. Mukti swayam mukulitan jalisevate sman. Caitanya-caritämrta 107. Speaking from his actual experience, Srila Bilvamangal Thakur says that if one develops love of Godhead, mukti, liberation, becomes subservient and unimportant to him. Mukti stands before the devotee and is prepared to render all kinds of services. The Mayavadi philosophers' standard of mukti is very insignificant for a devotee, for by devotional service, even the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes subordinate to him. An actual example is that the Supreme Lord Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjuna, and when Arjuna asked him to draw his chariot between the two armies, Senayor Ubayor Madhye Ratam Stapayame Juta, Krishna executed his order. Such is the relationship between the Supreme Lord and a devotee, that although the Lord is greater than the greatest, he is prepared to render service to the insignificant devotee by dint of his sincere and unalloyed devotional service. Text 146. One's relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, activities in terms of that relationship, and the ultimate goal of life, to develop love of God. These three subjects are explained in every aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra, for they form the culmination of the entire Vedanta philosophy. Purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.5, it is said, Parabhavas tavad abodha jato yavan najigyasata atma tatvam. A human being is defeated in all his activities as long as he does not know the goal of life, which can be understood when one is inquisitive about Brahman. It is such an inquiry that begins the Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. A human being should be inquisitive to know who he is, what the universe is, what God is, and what the relationship is between himself, God, and the material world. Such questions cannot be asked by cats and dogs, but they must arise in the heart of a real human being. Knowledge of these four items, namely oneself, the universe, God, and their relationship, is called Sambandha Gyan, or the knowledge of one's relationship. When one's relationship with the Supreme Lord is established, the next program is to act in that relationship. This is called abhideya, or activity in relationship with the Lord. After executing such prescribed duties, when one attains the highest goal of life, love of Godhead, he achieves prayojana siddhi, or the fulfillment of his human mission. In the Brahma Sutra, or Vedanta Sutra, these subjects are very carefully explained. Therefore, one who does not understand the Vedanta Sutra in terms of these principles is simply wasting his time. This is the version of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.8. Dharmak sanustitak pumsang vishwaksena katasu yaha notpadayet yadi ritim shama eva hi kevalam. One may be a very learned scholar and execute his prescribed duty very nicely, but if he does not ultimately become inquisitive about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is indifferent to Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, all that he has done is but a waste of time. Mayavadi philosophers, who do not understand the relationship between themselves, the cosmic manifestation, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are simply wasting their time, and their philosophical speculation has no value. Text 147. When all the Mayavadi sannyasis thus heard the explanation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the basis of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana, they spoke very humbly. Purport. Everyone who actually desires to understand the Vedanta philosophy must certainly accept the explanation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Vaishnava Acharyas, who have also commented on the Vedanta Sutra according to the principles of Bhakti Yoga. After hearing the explanation of the Vedanta Sutra from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the sannyasis, headed by Prakashananda Saraswati, became very humble and obedient to the Lord, and they spoke as follows. Text 148. Dear Sir, you are Vedic knowledge personified and are directly Narayana himself. Kindly excuse us for the offenses we previously committed by criticizing you. Purport. The complete path of Bhakti Yoga is based upon the process of becoming humble and submissive. By the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the Mayavadi sannyasis were very humble and submissive after hearing his explanation of the Vedanta Sutra, and they begged to be pardoned for the offenses they had committed by criticizing the Lord for simply chanting and dancing and not taking part in the study of the Vedanta Sutra. We are propagating the Krishna consciousness movement simply by following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We may not be very well versed in the Vedanta Sutra aphorisms and may not understand their meaning, but we follow in the footsteps of the Acharyas, and because of our strictly and obediently following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is to be understood that we know everything regarding the Vedanta Sutra. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So Prabhupada is taking us right to the end of knowledge, taking us by the hand and taking us right to the top most understandings. All glories to his transcendental love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his devotional service to all of us. Hare Krishna. 149. From that moment, when the Mayavadi sannyasis heard the explanation of the Vedanta Sutra from the Lord, their minds changed, and on the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they too chanted, Krishna, Krishna, always. Purport. In this connection, it may be mentioned that sometimes the Sahaja class of devotees opine that Prakashananda Saraswati and Prabodhananda Saraswati are the same man. Prabodhananda Saraswati was a great Vaishnava devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Prakashananda Saraswati, the head of the Mayavadi sannyasis in Benares, was a different person. Prabodhananda Saraswati belonged to the Ramanuja Sampradaya, whereas Prakashananda Saraswati belonged to the Shankaracharya Sampradaya. Prabodhananda Saraswati wrote a number of books, among which are the Caitanya-caritämrta, Radha Krishna Sudhanidhi, Sangita Madhava, Vrindavana Shataka, and Navadvip Shataka. While traveling in southern India, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Prabodhananda Saraswati, who had two brothers, Venkata Bhatta and Tirumalaya Bhatta. Tirumalaya Bhatta, who were Vaishnavas of the Ramanuja Sampradaya. Gopal Bhatta Goswami was the nephew of Prabodhananda Saraswati. From historical records, it is found that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveled in South India in the year 1433, Shakabda, AD 1511, during the Chaturmasya period, and it was at that time that he met Prabodhananda, who belonged to the Ramanuja Sampradaya. How then could the same person meet him as a member of the Shankara Sampradaya in 1435, Shakabda, 2 years later? It is to be concluded that the guess of the Sahaja Sampradaya, that Prabodhananda Saraswati and Prakashananda Saraswati were the same man, is a mistaken idea. Text 150. Thus Lord Chaitanya excused all the offenses of the Mayavadi sannyasis and very mercifully blessed them with Krishna Nam. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the mercy incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is addressed by Srila Rupa Goswami as Mahabhadanyavatar, or the most magnanimous incarnation. Srila Rupa Goswami also says, Karunaya Bhatirna Kalo. It is only by his mercy that he has descended in the age of Kali. Here this is exemplified. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like to see Mayavadi sannyasis because he thought of them as offenders to the lotus feet of Krishna. But here he excuses them. Tan sabara chami aparada. This is an example in preaching. Apani achari bhakti shikayumu sabarare. This is an example in preaching. Apani achari bhakti shikayumu sabare. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us that those whom preachers meet are almost all offenders who are opposed to Krishna consciousness. But it is a preacher's duty to convince them of the Krishna consciousness movement and then induce them to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Our propagation of the Sankirtan movement is continuing despite many opponents, and people are taking up this chanting process, even in remote parts of the world like Africa. By inducing the offenders to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exemplified the success of the Krishna consciousness movement. We should follow very respectfully in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, and there is no doubt that we shall be successful in our attempts. Text 151. After this, all the sannyasis took the Lord into their midst, and thus they all took their meal together. Purport. Previously, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had neither mixed nor talked with the Mayavadi sannyasis, but now he took lunch with them. It is to be concluded that when Lord Chaitanya induced them to chant Hare Krishna and excused them for their offenses, they were purified, and therefore there was no objection to taking lunch or Bhagavat Prasadam with them, although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew that the food had not been offered to the deity. Mayavadi sannyasis do not worship the deity, or if they do, they generally worship the deity of Lord Shiva or the Panchopasana, Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, Durga Devi, Ganesh, and Surya. Here we do not find any mention of the demigods or Vishnu, and yet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted food in the midst of the sannyasis on the basis that they had chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and that he had excused their offenses. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. How many more verses do we have to the end? A lot, huh?
Well, there's 171 verses.
171 verses. Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll do this verse. This will be the last verse. 152. After taking lunch among the Mayavadi sannyasis, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was known as Gaura Sundar, returned to his residence. Thus, the Lord performs his wonderful pastimes. (153) Hearing the arguments of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and seeing his victory, Chandrasekhar, Tapan Mishra, and Sanatan Goswami were all extremely pleased. Purport. Here is an example of how a sannyasi should preach. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Varanasi, he went there alone, not with a big party. Locally, however, he made friendships with Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra, and Sanatana Goswami also came to see him. Therefore, although he did not have many friends there, due to his sound preaching and his victory in arguing with the local sannyasis on the Vedanta philosophy, he became greatly famous in that part of the country, as explained in the next verse. Many Mayavadi sannyasis of Varanasi came to see the Lord after this incident, and the entire city praised him. 155. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the city of Varanasi, and all of its people were very thankful. 156. The crowd at the door of his residence was so great that it numbered hundreds of thousands. When the Lord went to visit the temple of Vishweshwara, hundreds of thousands of people assembled to see him. Purport. The important point in this verse is that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu regularly visited the temple of Vishweshwara, Lord Shiva, at Varanasi. Vaishnavas generally do not visit a demigod's temple, but here we see that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu regularly visited the temple of Vishweshwara, who was the predominating deity of Varanasi. Generally, Mayavadi sannyasis and worshippers of Lord Shiva live in Varanasi. But how is it that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who took the part of a Vaishnava sannyasi, also visited the Vishweshwara temple? The answer is that a Vaishnava does not behave impudently toward the demigods. A Vaishnava gives proper respect to all, although he never accepts a demigod to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Brahma Samhita, there are mantras offering obeisances to Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, the Sun God, and Lord Ganesh, as well as Lord Vishnu, all of whom are worshipped by the impersonalists as Panchopasana. In their temples, impersonalists install deities of Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, the Sun God, Goddess Durga, and sometimes Lord Brahma also. And this system is continuing at present in India under the guise of the Hindu religion. Vaishnavas can also worship all these demigods, but only on the principles of the Brahma Samhita, which is recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We may note in this connection the mantras for worshipping Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Goddess Durga, the Sun God, and Ganesh, as described in the Brahma Samhita. Srishti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha Chaye Vayasya Bhuvanani Bibharti Durga Ichchanu Rupam Abhiyasya Chacheshtate Sa Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. The external potency, Maya, who is the nature of the shadow of the Chit, spiritual potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. Brahma Samhita 544. Chiram yata dadivikari vishesha yogat. Chiram yata dadivikara vishesha yogat. Sanjayate nahitatak prikad estuk hetoho. Sanjayate nahitatak pritag asti hetoho. Yak sambhutam apitata samupaiti karyad govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Milk is transformed into yogurt by the actions of acids, yet the effect, yogurt, is neither the same as nor different from its cause, that is, milk. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a similar transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. That's 545. Basvanyatashma shakaleshu nijeshu tejaha swiyam kiyat prakatayat japitadvadatra Brahma ya esha jagat Andavidana-karta Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, from whom the separated, subjective portion, Brahma, receives his power for the regulation of the mundane world. Just as the sun manifests a portion of his own light in all the effulgent gems that bear such names as Surya Kanta. Yat pada palava yugam vinidaya kumbha dvandvai pranama samaye saganadirajaha vignan bihantum alam asya jagat trayasya govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda. Ganesh always holds the Lord's lotus feet upon the pair of tumuli protruding from his elephant's head in order to obtain power for his function of destroying all obstacles on the path of the progress in the three worlds. Yach chakshur esha savita sakala grahanam raja samasta sudha murti resheshate jaha yas yagyaya brahmatisam britakala chakro govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. The sun, full of infinite effulgence, who is the king of all the planets and the image of the good soul, is like the eye of this world. I adore the primeval Lord, Govinda, in pursuance of whose order the sun performs his journey, mounting the wheel of time. All the demigods are servants of Krishna. They are not equal with Krishna. Therefore, even if one goes to a temple of the Panchopasana, as mentioned above, one should not accept the deities as they are accepted by the impersonalists. All of them are to be accepted as personal demigods, but they all serve the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shankaracharya, for example, is understood to be an incarnation of Lord Shiva, as described in the Padma Purana. He propagated the Mayavad philosophy under the order of the Supreme Lord. We have already discussed this point in text 114 of this chapter. Tanra dosha nahi teno agya karidas. Shankaracharya is not at fault, for he has thus covered the real purport of the Vedas under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Lord Shiva, in the form of a Brahmana, Shankaracharya, preached the false philosophy of Mayavad, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu nevertheless said that since he did it on the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there was no fault on his part. Tanra dosha nahi. We must offer proper respects to all the demigods. If one can offer respects to even an ant, why not to the demigods? One must always know, however, that no demigod is equal to or above the Supreme Lord. Ekale Ishwara Krishna Ara Sabhabritya. Only Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all others, including the demigods such as Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Goddess Durga, and Ganesh, are his servants. Everyone serves the purpose of the Supreme Godhead, and what to speak of such small and insignificant living entities as ourselves. We are surely eternal servants of the Lord. The Mayavad philosophy maintains that the demigods, the living entities, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are all equal. It is therefore a most foolish misrepresentation of Vedic knowledge. And we'll stop for tonight. The reading, Hare Krishna. If anything stuck in your minds during that reading, please be my guest. In the meantime, let us know. I'm thinking about reading something. Excuse me.
There's something from Daityari Haridas.
Okay, Daityari Hari. Daityari Hari.
It says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, thanks again for your readings. We heard tonight the very famous statement that the test of our Krishna consciousness is the degree that we're free from mundane materialistic attachments. My question is, what are we actually attached to? If it seems like we get some taste from hearing about Krishna and performing service, but at the same time are embarrassingly immersed in lower tendencies like lust and envy for our peers, who are progressing in Krishna consciousness quicker than we, and are getting more association and instructions in favor from advanced devotees than ourselves. What are we actually qualified to understand in this condition? And how do we come to terms with the scale of our envy and desire for recognition and deal with these things progressively?
Well, if you follow the principles that are given by your spiritual master after initiation, and then what you're doing in effect is you're unplugging the current which causes you to become further entangled or more deeply entangled. But when you unplug a fan, because of the way the fan's constructed, it's constructed in a way that there's hardly any resistance in the bearings that cause the thing to swivel around. And therefore the fan, even when you unplug the current, it will still go around for a while, but it will gradually slow down until it stops. So if you're chanting Hare Krishna and you're tasting something from the Krishna consciousness, process of Krishna consciousness, that means you've unplugged the fan. And those things that come into your heart, like, sometimes feelings of jealousy or something, because the Paramahansa stage is, as we heard in the purports tonight, Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam. They're meant for persons who are free from envy. So we have to give up our envy, and how we do that is by performing devotional service. The process of devotional service, which means serving the Supreme Lord and the Lord's devotees, is what removes that that obstacle, that dirt in the heart. So there is, the point is that there is nothing higher than chanting Hare Krishna. But you have to learn how to chant Hare Krishna without offense. So if you go on hearing these books, chanting Hare Krishna, and trying sincerely to apply what you've heard into your character and into your life, and you memorize the divine qualities that are given in the beginning of the 16th chapter, for instance, of the Gita, or what is knowledge from the 13th chapter of the Gita, the list of items that constitute real knowledge, then if you stick to this process and are patient, even if you're not perfect yet, and even if you don't succeed at everything, then gradually you will attract the attention of Lord Chaitanya. And by his mercy, you will be able to give up all of the imperfections and remember who you are. Hare Krishna.
Next is something from Vrindavaneshwari Devi Dasi.
Well, Vrindavaneshwari, Hare Krishna.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj,
Hari
please
Bol.
accept my obeisances.
How nice to hear from you.
Thank you for another wonderful reading. We read CC 7146, quote, One may be a very learned scholar and execute his prescribed duty very nicely, but if he does not ultimately become inquisitive about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is indifferent to Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, all that he has done is but a waste of time." Unquote. This reminds me sadly of all the busybody scholars at Stanford University, wasting precious time, and makes me sad for these souls.
Yes. So that's an interesting situation, that you hear what the truth is, and then you go and work in a place where everybody has no idea, and you get to see the difference. So that's Krishna's special mercy on you. Everything that happens to us is Krishna's mercy, actually.
Something from Bhakta Charlie. He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj. It says in one of the purports we read that Durga is the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of the mundane world. My understanding was that these potencies were directed by Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and Lord Brahma. Can you explain a bit about this, please? Thank you.
Can you repeat it again? Sorry, I was being distracted. I want to read something to honor Bhaktivinod Thakur, something that he wrote, a poem. So, but I was finding it when you read. So please repeat it again.
It says in one of the purports we read that Durga is the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of the mundane world. My understanding was that these potencies were directed by Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and Lord Brahma. Can you explain a bit about this, please?
Maya Dyakshana Prakriti Suyate Sachadachadam Hetunani Vikonteya Jagat Viparivartate. These persons that you're mentioning are the representatives of Krishna. It's actually Krishna who's doing everything through these persons. Just like a president of a country or a head CEO of a big company. He knows what's going on, and by his energy it's going on, but he's not expected to be in every department doing all the details of every activity in the organization. So Krishna is like that. Maya Dyakshana Prakriti Suyate Sachadachadam. He is there pervading everything. He's in the hearts of all living beings. And he's giving knowledge, he's giving remembrance, he's giving forgetfulness. And those devotees that you're talking about, these demigods, are living beings. And Krishna's in their heart. And he's directing their wanderings. So he's doing everything through these personalities, through Durga. Durga is actually the shadow of the goddess of fortune. Just like the shadow and the hand and the shadow. The shadow moves according to the hand exactly. So the shadow Durga moves exactly according to the Krishna's direction. But I would like to read something. Do we have more? Okay.
One more from Gauranga Gopal Das.
Gauranga Gopal, Hare Krishna.
It says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for your association tonight. We hear that envy is the cause of our falling in the material world, and that only if we get rid of it can we be granted access to the spiritual world again. We also hear that lusting at material nature is also the cause of us being here. Are envy and lust one and the same then? Or is it that two aspects of one bigger anartha?
Well, the Ichcha Dvesha Samutina Dvandva Mohena Bharata. Everybody who comes into this material world comes propelled by two things, desire, ichcha, and dvesha, or aversion. So these are the propelling natures of Maya. When we, even in the slightest, this is very difficult to understand. It's actually not completely possible to or it's not possible to completely understand or understand completely this answer, because in the spiritual world there's no room for envy. There's no room for material desire. But the first stage is to wonder what it would be like to be Krishna, or something like very subtle. It's so subtle we can't comprehend it from this conditioned stage. As long as we're under the modes of material nature and conditioned by time and space in this material world, then we can't understand what's going on in the spiritual world by logic and argument, or the strength of our own material mind and senses. But we have an independent nature because we're part of Krishna. Krishna is fully independent. He is completely independent. He is unlimitedly independent. But we are an infinitesimal part of Krishna. Therefore, our independence is infinitesimal. It's very small. And therefore, the tendency to misuse or use properly is always there in the soul. Therefore, he's called tatastha. He's the marginal energy. He's internal energy, but he's marginal. He can choose to be underneath the material energy or underneath the spiritual energy. And by the misuse of that independence, he chooses, out of his curiosity or whatever it was, it's inconceivable, you can't understand. Just like we can't understand why it is that it becomes apparent to practically everyone in the world that smoking is bad for us, and they put, very gross, graphic descriptions and even pictures sometimes of what happens to a person when they smoke cigarettes, and yet people smoke cigarettes. It says right in the package, this will kill you, and yet they do it. So the tendency to commit spiritual suicide or material suicide is there, everywhere. It's all pervasive. So read again. I think I caught some of it, but I didn't get all of it.
We hear that envy is the cause of our falling in the material world. And that
It's envy of Krishna. What causes us to go in the spiritual world is envy of Krishna, but it's not gross. Like we can't compare that to the kind of envy we have here, like the Mayavadis. It's very subtle. It's like I said before, you can't actually understand it. It's causeless. It doesn't make any sense. But we came somehow or other into this material world from ichcha and dvesha. So now the second part of the question is it part of, are these, lust and envy, are they part of the same thing?
Are envy and lust one and the same then? Or is that two aspects of one big anartha?
Well, they're connected together because when we come under the influence of material energy, ichcha dvesha, yeah, they are connected, definitely. When Arjuna asks Krishna, what is it that makes me do something sinful even when I don't want to do it? And what does he say? Kama esha, krodha esha, rajaguna samudbhava, mahashano mahapapam, vidyanamirivadinam. He said it's lust. And the lust connects us. False ego, it's all part of the same process. It's just different phases of it, different aspects. All the anarthas are connected. Not everyone is the same, but they're all connected some way or another. So if we give up, like you can dovetail anger by fighting the demons, right? You can dovetail lust by propagating children in Krishna consciousness. You can dovetail greed by trying to collect everything for Krishna, trying to give everything belongs to Krishna back to Krishna. But envy is something that you can't really dovetail. So therefore envy has to be given up. You could say pride and envy are very closer identified than the lust. But the lust is iccha. It's the desire that brings us to the material world. So they're all connected together. It's just a matter of understanding. We get purified from all of them by one process. Not that we have to understand every single one to give up these things. When we awaken our love for Krishna, then all of these things will be annihilated all at once practically. But there is also a gradual, for most people, for most devotees, there's a gradual process. You have faith, then you see the devotees and you have some faith. You get a book, you hear about Krishna, you have some faith. What is this? You're curious. You want to associate with devotees. Then once you get that taste a little, or a little, your faith is increased rather, then you want to do devotional service, then you approach for initiation. Anyway, I'm saying this very simple thing that we all know these things. And then that leads to devotional service, properly executed under the order and protection of the spiritual master. And then by doing that, the anarthas are removed. So your anarthas will all be removed by the process of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master. So I don't know how important it is for us to understand that level of detail, or to put it another way, understanding the level of the detail isn't going to actually purify us. What purifies us is devotional service. So if you just continue to perform devotional service, read these books, try to understand, chant Hare Krishna, take Krishna Prasad, and try to deliver all these things to others, you will become purified of all these things very easily, actually. Hare Krishna. Now I want to read something. This is Bhaktivinod Thakur's prayer. You got something else?
Something from Rati Manjari also.
Haribol Rati.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Tonight we have heard the verses from Brahma Samhita that describe the positions of the demigods and their relationship to Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I have a question. I have heard that Lord Ganesh has the lotus feet of Lord Nrsingadev on his tumuli, and that is where he receives his power to remove obstacles from. Yet in the Brahma Samhita verse, the name of Lord Nrsingadev is not mentioned. I would like to know where the verse is found, in which verse Lord Nrsingadev is mentioned. Could you please comment on this?
What does it say in the verse that we just heard? Where is his tumuli resting? See, your question hints at there's a difference between Lord Nrsingadev and Vishnu. You may have heard somewhere where the word Nrsingadev is mentioned, but Lord Vishnu is Lord Nrsingadev. Lord Nrsingadev is Vishnu. I don't know the verse that says it's particularly Nrsingadev, but we know that it's Vishnu, and we know that Lord Nrsingadev is Vishnu. So it doesn't bother me. I don't know what the verse is. You have to go to someone else who may know. I'm not going to say something that I don't know or pretend to know something that I don't know. Now, may I read this? I'm dying to read this. Something else? Go ahead.
Rati says, I have another question. Today is also the disappearance day of Sri Gadadhar Pandit. I've heard that the relationship between Lord Chaitanya and Sri Gadadhar Pandit is very exalted. Some devotees worship Sri Sri Gaur Gadadhar, but in our movement this is not emphasized. Could you please comment on what the proper understanding should be for us about the relationship between Lord Chaitanya and Sri Gadadhar Pandit?
Gadadhar Pandit is an expansion of Radharani, but the mood that he had toward Lord Chaitanya was one of Rukmini, expansion of Radharani. Actually, Satyabhama is directly Radharani, but Rukmini is an expansion. And the proof of this is that when Gadadhar Pandit was with Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri, he was always very submissive. The verses are there. You can look it up. Look up in your Vedabase and search for Gadadhar Pandit in Caitanya-caritämrta, and you will find. I think it's in the Ädi-lilä, under the chapter in which Balabhabata meets Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri. You go to that chapter and you read that chapter, and it'll explain to you the relationship between Lord Chaitanya and Gadadhar Pandit. Okay? You gotta do something for yourself. I'm not going to do everything for you. Now, it is the appearance day of Bhaktivinod Thakur, which to us is, in a sense, more important because he's so close to us, because he's the father of this movement. Srila Prabhupada's preaching were similar to his preaching. So I want to read something to you. I know it's a little late, but I don't care, because this is Bhaktivinod Thakur's Disappearance Day. So listen to this. This is a poem that was written by Bhaktivinod Thakur after he discovered the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Caitanya-caritämrta and surrendered to Lord Chaitanya. It is called Saragrahi Vaishnava. You can find it in the Seventh Goswami by Rupa Vilas Prabhu. Saragrahi Vaishnava. Alas, for those who spend their days in festive mirth and joy, the dazzling, deadly liquid forms their heart for air employ. The shining bottles charm their eyes and draw their heart's embrace. The slaves of wine can never rise from what we call disgrace. Was man intended to be a brute in work and heart? Should man, the Lord of all around, from common sense depart? Man's glory is in common sense, dictating us the grace that man is made to live and love the beauteous heaven's embrace. The flesh is not our own, alas, the mortal flame a chain. The soul confined for former wrongs should try to rise again. Why then this childish play in that which cannot be our own, which falls within 100 years as if a rose ablown? Our life is but a rosy hue, to go ere long to naught. The soul alone would last fore'er, with good or evil fraught. How deep the thought of times to be, how grave the aspect looks, and wrapped in awe become, oh, I, when reading nature's books. Man's life to him a problem dark, a screen both left and right. No soul hath come to tell us what exists beyond our sight. But then a voice, how deep and soft, within ourselves is left. Man, man, thou art immortal soul. Thee death can never melt. For thee thy sire on high has kept a store of bliss above. To end of time thou art, O his who wants but purest love. O love, thy power and spell benign now melt my soul to God. How can my earthly words describe that feeling soft and broad? Enjoyment, sorrow, what but lots to which the flesh is heir? The soul that sleeps alone concludes in them that hath a share. And then, my friends, no more enjoy, nor weep for all below. The women, wine, and flesh of beasts no love on thee bestow. But thine to love thy brother man, and give thyself to God. And God doth know your wages fair. This fact is true and broad. Forget the past that sleeps, and ne'er the future dream at all, but act in times that are with thee, then progress thee shall call. But tell me not in reasoning cold, the soul is made alone by earth's mechanic, lifeless rules, and to destruction prone. My God, who give us life and all, my God, who gave us life and all, alone the soul can kill, or give it all the joys above his promise to fulfill. So push on thy onward march, O soul, against an evil deed that stands with soldiers, hate and lust, a hero be indeed. Maintain thy post in spirit world as firmly as you can. Let never matter push thee down, O stand heroic man. O Shararagi Vaishnav soul, O Sharagrahi Vaishnav soul, thou art an angel fair. Lead me on to Vrindavan, and spirit's power declare. There rests my soul from matter, free upon my lover's arms. Eternal peace and spirit's love are all my chanting charms. Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur ki jai. Nobody can write like that. He was the greatest poet. Hare Krishna. That says it all, that poem. Read it and try to understand it as deeply as possible. Okay, it's past 8:30. We're going to take rest now. We've been going at it for more than about an hour and a half. Thank you very much, everyone. All glories to Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur. All glories to Sri Gadadhar Pandit, the eternal Shakti of Lord Chaitanya. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow, same time, same place, just like a rock. Hare Krishna.